The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Before we get started, we just want to make sure that the attendees on the webinar can hear us. And the way we can tell is if you can please raise your hand. Okay, got a couple hands raised. Thank you. All right, we'll give it one more minute just for people that may be logging on. All right, the time is now 9 o'clock. It is November 2nd. Welcome and thank you for attending the State Board of Pharmacy's stakeholder meeting via webinar today. Before we get started, we would like to introduce the staff members from the Division of Professions and Occupations that are present. My name is Elena Kemp, and I'm a regulatory coordinator with the division. Also attending, we have Dimitri Kunin, he's the program director, and Darcy Magnuson, she's the regulatory analyst. In compliance with the governor's orders regarding COVID-19, the division has transitioned to a platform that is 100% virtual, and we appreciate your flexibility. As many of you have been to DORA stakeholder meetings before, we would like to reiterate the importance of your comments today. DORA makes decisions every day that may affect your life and your business, so your input is vital in the rulemaking process. Throughout this process, our goal is to create regulations that clarify and explain legislation, ensure minimum competency to enter and continue to practice, and to provide only what is absolutely necessary for consumer protection without creating unnecessary barriers to the marketplace. Your input will be part of the information that goes to the board as it considers adopting new and revised rules. More specifically, today we will be discussing the proposed new rule, Rule 1.00.25 and Appendix D, to implement Colorado Senate Bill 20102, and that bill is concerning the requirement of providers to provide disclosure of sexual misconduct to patients prior to treatment. We'll also be discussing revisions to Rule 17 as required by the Office of Legislative Legal Services. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the website at a later time. As the stakeholder meeting is held solely via webinar, please raise your hand using the hand icon if you'd like to speak, and we will unmute your line so you can be heard by everyone. Or you can type your comment in the question section and we will read it aloud. For anyone that is planning to provide comments today, we ask that you please state your name and who you represent, if anyone. Feel free to provide either general comments on the rule changes or specific comments on the proposed language. Keep your comments limited to 3 to 5 minutes or less, and try not to repeat something that was already said. If you're just stating you're in full agreement with something that someone else said, that works just fine, and it will be noted. If you're using audio through your computer, please remember to put your phones on vibrate or turn them off. And whether or not you're using computer or phone audio, try to keep all background noises to a minimum when speaking. So at this time, we're ready to take comments from stakeholders that are present. And once again, you can just raise your hand or type your comment in the question section. We do have the rules on the screen. This first one is regarding Senate Bill 20102. So if you'd like to provide comment, we are ready to take it. It looks like we have a comment from Miss Michelle Izor. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. The comment is, or question, shall I say, is for retail pharmacies, could you clarify what this would look like? Would the pharmacist need to disclose that to every patient in every interaction, or could we post a notice?
So, Michelle, that's a good question. It's drafted out in more of a definition in number 3, where the screen is at the top. You can say there, Elena. So it states, for the purposes of this rule 1.00.25, professional services shall include face-to-face counseling, including but not limited to the administration of drugs and vaccines, collaborative pharmacy practice, and allowable testing and diagnostics. So, if you're trying to tease out the understanding of interactions in the space of a retail setting, this does not include interactions that would be telephonic, that would be, over-the-counter conversations. There are other interactions as specified in that number 3 that are more within a proximity of another individual. Some of them are defined, but obviously it keeps it open as stating, but not limited to. Oh, hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more comments regarding this first rule, the new rule 1.00.25. We can always come back, but we're going to continue to Rule 17, collaborative pharmacy practice. There's no changes at the beginning of the rule, so we'll scroll down to the red line changes. Oh, looks like we have a hand. Okay, Miss Emily, I'm going to unmute your line. Oh, it looks like you're self-muted. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Emily's here. I think you can hear me just fine. So I represent 2 entities today. The first is the Colorado Pharmacist Society. I'm the executive director, and I'm also representing the University of Colorado Skaggs School of Pharmacy as a clinical associate professor. I apologize if I'm a little long-winded with my comments today, but as a stakeholder who originally worked on the 2016 legislation, Senate Bill 16135, I participated actively in all the rulemaking task forces and implementation of that legislation. So happy to provide a little background and comments with regards to the issue today. To the subject of the need to further define and enumerate evidence-based healthcare services under Rule 17, we believe that meticulously defining and enumerating is not necessary and will create a more restrictive and over-regulated practice environment and could potentially be a step backward in pharmacy practice and for the Colorado patients for a few following reasons. So to be clear, evidence-based healthcare services was inserted in statute in 2016 to help further clarify and define the pharmacist's practice under evidence-based clinical guideline-directed care for patients under defined and already clear mechanisms provided in law and rule, of those being collaborative practice agreements, collaborative drug therapy management, and statewide drug therapy protocols. And the collaborative practice protocols themselves, including CDTM and statewide protocols, must already explicitly define the scope of all the services provided by pharmacists. Therefore, these, enumeration of healthcare services might be unnecessarily restrictive and redundant, and certainly not what I would call the minimum necessary to protect the public. CDTM protocols have to be developed and agreed to by participating physicians and pharmacists according to evidence-based practice, and nothing can be performed outside of those protocols. So if we further define with specific rules, this could limit what is already allowed by statute and rule in Colorado and limit practice. It's also of specific concern that if we enumerate the services inadvertently too narrowly, that existing protocols could be rendered invalid and could preclude some services from authorized practice. That would not only be a huge change to current practice, which is allowed, but it could unintentionally put patients and pharmacists at risk if their protocol is no longer valid at the board level. Listing the explicit services in rule would be unnecessarily rigid and could limit future care that could be provided under existing allowances in statute and rule. I do understand that OLS is requiring revisions, so if they are required, then we support the draft changes as presented in the rules on the screen, but anything more limited or restricted could go against what is currently allowed in Colorado and potentially inadvertently render current collaborative practice invalid. We also don't want to see collaborative practice set back in Colorado, which is obviously not best for the public or the care we provide to them. So thank you for the opportunity to voice our input, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will. So once again, if you are just joining us on the webinar, we are allowing stakeholders to an opportunity to speak. So if you do want to speak on any of the rules, the draft changes, all you have to do is raise your hand or put your comment or question in the question pane and we'll read it aloud. This is your opportunity to voice your opinion. This is Appendix D on the screen currently. That's also related to Senate Bill 2102. Okay, we are at the end of the draft changes. And it does not appear that we have any other stakeholders that want to provide comments.
Elena, there's a written comment.
Oh, do you see one? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and. Okay, here we go. So we have a comment from a Miss Emily Kosarog. Sorry. The comment is, my name is Emily Kosarog, Director of Clinical Pharmacy at Salud Family Health Centers a federally qualified health center in Colorado. I support and affirm Dr. Zandvorny's concerns that additional restrictions on Rule 17 has the potential to set back collaborative practice in Colorado. I am thankful for the work CPS has done in this area. And it looks like that's the end of the comment. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other comments or hands raised. So we'll give it one more minute until it's currently 9:14. We'll wait until 9:15. It is now. We'll wait till 9:16, just in case somebody is finishing up or trying to type. And then we'll proceed. Okay, it is currently 9:16 and we don't have any other comments or hands raised. So thank you for participating in today's meeting. The stakeholder comments and program recommendations will be presented to the board prior to the permanent rulemaking hearing on November 19th. This concludes the stakeholder meeting, and once again, we appreciate your participation. We're going to end the webinar now. Oh, and well, before we end, I do want to let everyone know that there's still time. If you think of something later on that you didn't think of during this stakeholder meeting, you can definitely send your written comments to the general rulemaking inbox, and we'll also provide all those comments to the board so they can read through them and review and consider them before the permanent rulemaking hearing. The email inbox that you want to send any written comments is Dora_DPO_rulemaking@state.co.us, and that's also listed on the notice for today's meeting as well. Thank you again, and we're going to end the webinar now.